Unbeknownst to Brodo, he accessed a Ouija board and summoned the spirit of John Dee, who called forth from Brodo's subconscious Brostradamus, and today you shall suffer his 3 quatrains. I'm Brodor, and this is Why We Game. And as you just heard, we're going to do some predictions about the next year or 3 in the gaming industry. We're going to talk about D&D 5.5 and its 50-year anniversary. We're going to talk about D&D Onslaught, the new collaboration with WizKids, and of course, Leagues of Votan, the return of squats to the 40K universe. I've got a lot of thoughts on the first subject, and that is the new or expanded rules for Dungeons & Dragons and things that were announced at last year's D&D celebration. I think Wizards are geniuses. Not only have they been great stewards of the game, they are great marketing people, and I think that they have done a great service to their stockholders in terms of creating something that has value. And one of the things that they have done brilliantly over the years is teased what the new rules are going to be that you kind of saw from the transition from 3.5 to 4th edition D&D. Now we're kind of seeing what 5.5 is going to be, but they've vowed that everything that you have currently for 5e is going to be compatible with the new edition, and they've referred to them as an expanded rules set. So I really think they're going to give the people what they want in terms of an increased complexity. But I don't think at this time it's in their best interest to overhaul the game. One, because they haven't, relative to previous editions of Dungeons & Dragons, released a lot of stuff. But 2, they saw that a 0.5 model can be extremely, extremely successful when they did 3.5 back in the day. So I think that they want to replicate the success of that model. But I also think that they're going to sell us these advanced rules as the books are coming out, and everything's going to maintain compatibility. And then in 2024, for the big anniversary, 50th anniversary of Dungeons & Dragons, we'll see a huge thing that gets released at Gen Con and blah, blah, blah. And it'll be a huge to-do. And it'll be all the neat, new, cool rules in one spot that are still compatible with all the books that we've already purchased, and just have these cool rules in one place, even though I already bought those rules and they're spread out a bunch of books, which is convenient. So of course I want to buy them in the one place. Anyway, I think it is utterly brilliant, despite the fact that my logic has been a bit circuitous. I also think that Wizards is, and it's clear that they have been moving toward a more technically focused and digitally focused games, both with Magic the Gathering, but also with Dungeons & Dragons, and the availability of PDFs and things through the Judges Guild. I think that you're going to see more and more of that, particularly with Cynthia Williams being the new head of the WotC division. You know, with her focus on technology and e-commerce, and we've talked about it before, that's just the future of things, right? And I think it's inevitable that we move that direction, particularly now when we're seeing all the complications that we have had with supply chains and container issues and all the other shipping stuff, not to mention just wanting to now see the fragilities of a global supply chain, wanting to have a little bit more control over things in-house. And plus, I think we can save some money and have a green impact by not printing. But anyway, that's a thing for another time. But I don't think that the company's short-term intention is to sell. However, I do think inevitably it will be their long-term intention. And I think that financially, it is a much simpler task to give gamers what they may have been asking for, which is a little bit more depth of complexity, a little bit more advancement in the rules, a little bit more crunch. And I could be wrong, but they've done polls recently where they've asked people, what would you like to see? Or excuse me, let me rephrase that. They've asked people recently, what is it that you like in the previous editions of Dungeons and Dragons? What are the things that you may want to see from a new edition? What should we keep from the current edition if we did do a new edition? I think that it's wise to engage their fans, in particular, giving them the things that they want, and certainly moving in that direction has been successful for WotC. Their audience is bigger than ever, but it's also younger than ever. And it's going to continue to become a bigger and bigger digital thing. And that's why I think in the long term, the current holders of Wizards of the Coast are going to milk 5e for everything they can. They're going to move the company in even a more profitable direction to absolutely go from undervaluing an asset like every company does to overvaluing an asset at the time of its sale. And I think at that point, the Embracer Group is gonna take Wizards of the Coast off of Hasbro's hands and be the Disney of gaming. That's just my first Brostradamus quatrain. But I also think what's going to be great for them is that release, that August 2024 release, is going to have their entire print schedule set up for an enormous Christmas for Wizards of the Coast. And then I think after that, sometime in 2025, we hear talks of a sale. But anyway, I do expect an enormous Christmas for Wizards of the Coast in 2024. But in order to give them a bit of a springboard, right, to have a good Christmas in 2022 and build some excitement for Dungeons and Dragons, I think that in Q3 we will indeed see the release of D&D Onslaught, the 2-player skirmish game designed by Nicholas Yu, who, by the way, has some, if you go to Board Game Geek, Nicholas has got some really neat board game designs up there. I've never played any of their stuff, but I certainly want to try the worker placement area control game, Eternal Dynasty. Their games are well reviewed. Now, the interesting thing is that they're board games and not miniature games. And 2 of the 3 designs that I read about have a solo variant or solo rules, which I thought, well, that would be cool. Like sort of Rangers of Shadowdeep. If I'm playing Dungeons and Dragons Onslaught, can I build an adventuring party and go into dungeons and play with all my toy soldiers by myself? That would be really fun and exciting and new. But instead, they're going with something that WizKids has a pattern of doing, and that is creating a competitive miniatures game that is designed for organized play, at least from the press releases and things that I've read online. It seems to me that they're going back to the same old well. Now, I don't want to get too into it because it's fucking boring, but neither company has a great track record in terms of producing a miniatures game. Now, well, I know, put down your pitchforks and shit. HeroClix was fucking huge, and there was a time where Mech Warrior was big. But do you remember Creepy Freaks? And do you remember Baseball Clicks? And do I need to go down all of the roads of all of the games that WizKids has created with, from the couriers to the competitive dice version to, they've got a lot of instances where that company has crapped the bed. And I predict this is going to be one of them, because at $140 for 21 pre-painted of the WizKids quality miniatures, which I think are great. I've collected many of them, but I'm going to have, the softer plastic, and it's going to be hand painted by Chinese slave labor. And I don't want any part of that, both in terms of the quality of the paint jobs or giving more money from the gaming industry to our CCP overlords. But that's neither here nor there. I don't anticipate it being a game that has longevity. Now, I don't have the best track record with some of my predictions, and I can't prove that I did predict the Trump, first, victory, or the fact that Keyforge was going to be a big flash in the pan. You don't remember what Keyforge was? Of course you don't, because it flared that quickly. But I think this game is going to be big in terms of the exclusive miniatures that are in that box. You're essentially what the Brodors call free rules. You're going to basically be paying, $6.60 per miniature, and you're going to get some free cardboard and some free rules with those D&D miniature exclusives that you're going to buy for $140. But I don't think that long term you're going to have a successful game, because I don't understand who the target audience is. Yes, I do. Your target audience is your shareholders. It doesn't matter if the game has any semblance of longevity, provided that the game has that initial splash of sales. It has huge pre-orders. There's great buzz about the game. Once all of that is settled, you will discover that no one actually gives a fuck. All right, with all that venom spit, I really do sincerely hope that the game is successful. I love the hobby. I want to see the hobby thrive, and I want to see more people discover toy soldiers. But I don't understand, is this marketed toward the role-playing game crowd? Is it marketed toward the miniatures gaming crowd? Is it marketed toward the people who long for another HeroClix style game that has cool exclusives and an exciting and competitive organized play scene? I don't really know, but I've seen so many different games that have similar histories not do particularly well in the long term. And so I don't know. Now, I am excited about the fact that we're going to see some cool miniatures. I'm really hoping that we're going to see releases of cool miniature box sets that are indeed not pre-painted. And I know that you'll be able to buy the rules separately from the miniatures. And I'll be super interested to see how well the rules do sales-wise in terms of the box sets with the actual figs. But I do not see longevity. I do see another sort of shooting star sort of thing, or flash in the pan, as I alluded to with Keyforge. Now, lastly, the Games Workshop has announced the Leagues of Votan, or is it Voltan? Is it fucking Vudhata Wacha? God damn it! I turned off the thingy. It is Votan. I was right the first goddamn time. So anyway, so they've released the leagues, or announced the Leagues of Votan. It is not an April Fool's joke. The squats are back. Now, I used to sincerely believe that anytime someone said the word squat out loud, that another decade was added to the time that Games Workshop would actually be releasing squats. But that seems to be the case. It's pretty wild, and looking online at some of the releases, I think the models are absolutely spectacular, but I do sincerely believe that it heralds the end of the world. Now, we've been on the brink of World War III for some time, and I've seen all of these signs, and I'm no theologian, right? And I certainly would say that I'm most familiar with Revelations out of the good book, but I'm no expert. But I'm pretty certain there is a moment where the Lamb opens the third seal, and from the space dock spill forth the space dwarves of yore. I'm not quoting exactly, but I'm pretty certain that's precisely what has occurred. Now, looking online, these models are fucking gorgeous, right? And if there's anything that would make me want to get back into playing 40K, which is really, a loose set of rules again around some pretty remarkably kick-ass toy soldiers, it would be these guys. I mean, to have guys who are sappers digging in, fortifying our thud gun, and hammering artillery down on the enemy. Yeah, that gives me a full-on robot chubby I honestly never, ever, ever thought I'd see the day. But this sort of thing, it heralds the end of the world. There's even a cool thing on the Spiky Bits article about, the GW's doomsday clocks. And one of them was, plastic Thunderhawk, and then a plastic Sisters of Battle. And then furthest away, most difficult clock to see is squats. But I just don't understand hows and the whys and the whens and who made this decision. But I don't think that this kind of bid to capitalize on nostalgia is anything good. I think it comes from a dark place. And, we're already so close to World War III in terms of, the invasion of Taiwan and nuclear winter, that I just don't think that this sort of thing, it's like the universe is telling you, hey guys, here's one more great piece of news before the famine really hits, right? Before all of the lost farm production from 2 years of COVID deaths and shutdowns, and then of course how the world food market's going to be impacted by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Super spicy, I know, right? But anyway, I just don't think it's good news. I think it's an ill portent. So there you have it for today. My 3 Brostradamus quatrains. I am working on getting some more interviews lined up. I hope to have a new guest for you next week. But if I don't, I do vow this: there will be new content, because poor content is better than zero content. So I would like to just say, I'm Brodor. Thank you for listening. Music was by 99 Instrumentals. Audio editing is by me, although it was meager in this episode. I would hope that you would go to my Patreon and check it out. I'll put a link in the show notes. Maybe go check out my YouTube videos where I do more ranting and product reviews. Oh, and by the way, I'm a cracker. I'm a cracker. I'm a cracker.